All right, we are going to be starting with the second season of All Mankind. And the first episode is named Every Little Thing. The intro is almost over. We are at the moon base set up by the United States of America. The moon base is named Jamestown Colony, and the date in which this alternate history is set, in which the Russia beat USA in the space race, but the USA is catching up to them in terms of setting up lunar bases and going further into the solar system, which means aiming at Mars, is set in 21st May 1983. So with that, I resume the episode in which Ellen, one of the astronauts, is talking about being given parties left and right. She's going to be given a going away party in a week or so because she's apparently going to leave the lunar base and go back to Earth. All right. She's having a video conference with somebody in Houston, Texas. All right. Yeah, that is the caption on the screen. Right. It's the Johnson Space Center that is in communication with her on the moon. All right. So I had considered, making a recap of this episode, but considering that this is the first episode of the second season, and the fact that the NASA Perseverance rover landed successfully on Mars, I was in a good mood about space exploration, and so I thought that I'll live stream this episode as well. Once again, it'll be awesome, Max, if you are watching and you will subscribe to my channel, help me launch it. And a shout out before he asks to my little dude, Achyut. I love it that he watches all the progressive stuff that I stream, and he's going to be inspired. I hope that he's going to be inspired to do excellent things in life as well as his little brother. So, both you brothers, do well, be serious, and come on, take India to good places. All right. Ellen's conversation with her ground control is over, like ground control was calling Major Tom in David Bowie's song. The base is all empty because the rest of the crew has gone out with the incoming commander, the commander who is going to take over the station after she leaves in the next week. They've gone to see a lunar sunrise. So the difference between an Earth sunrise and a lunar sunrise is that because there is no atmosphere on the moon, sunrise just happens. And here we are used to, the brightening of the sky, and I've made so many time lapses about it. They are in my video about traveling in Himachal Pradesh, which I uploaded a couple of weeks ago. So you can go ahead and check that out. It has absolutely beautiful time lapses of a morning sunrise, of a moonrise, and of clouds going through the sky. So here we see there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. All right. So there are 10 astronauts who are walking on the surface of the moon in a group, in a line. And they all are walking in darkness with their flashlights on and their torches showing them the way. Here we have another astronaut. I think this is Molly. Yeah, so this is the astronaut Molly from season 1, and she's climbing a rock face. All right, and there is a 12th person on the rover, on a lunar rover, which were buggies, basically ATVs that were equipped to run on lunar soil. All right, so the person on the rover is going to take a photograph or video of the sunrise through the Twin Peaks, which is a very disturbing series by David Lynch and stars Kyle MacLachlan. So coming back to space exploration from surreal exploration of the psyche, which is what happens in Twin Peaks. So if you're a mature audience, you can check out that series too, Twin Peaks. All right. So we are back with the 10 astronauts in a line. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yep. 10 astronauts in a line, plus the one in the rover, and one person climbing the cliff. That's Molly. And there's a pigeon in my balcony, which I would like to get rid of. I mean, shoo away, but I'm with you people right now, so I'm going to desist from that, even though it irks me no end. Anyway, all right. So in preparation for the sunrise, the 10 plus 1 plus 1. Oh, so there are 13 Americans on the moon. Is that a Last Supper kind of thing? But anyway, I hope not. And please don't get offended. You know, everybody's so touchy these days. It's just pop culture. Instead, we should look out for days when us normal humans will be able to see natural phenomena like this. Like I said, lunar sunrises just happen like that. The sun comes up over the horizon wherever you are, and everything is brilliant white. And I was wondering why they haven't got their reflective visors down. So they've put on their they've brought down their reflective visors. Molly, the astronaut, is telling Wubbo, the rover photograph obsessed astronaut, to take a look at the sunrise. And he's enjoying the gleam of sunrise on his visor before bringing down the gold plated reflective visor. So somebody's singing. Okay. Oh, that's great that they are participating in a little sing along while they are checking out the sunrise on the moon. All right. So I guess they are at the Shackleton crater, which is a real location on the moon, obviously. The first season of For All Mankind was very closely replicated from the actual. All right. So the song was Three Little Birds. All right. Uh, very mellifluous ladies singing that song. And there we go. That's the name of the episode, Every Little Thing. So, all right. Joel Kinnaman's name comes up. Michael Dorman, Sarah Jones, Chantal Van Santen, Jodie Balfour, Sonia Walger, Chris Marshall, Cynthia Wu, with Ren Schmidt are going to be the principal cast members. I cannot obviously go through the names of the entire cast and crew, but that's what you get for being an actor. First billing as in the credits, and that's what I hope for someday. But till then, let's watch the first episode of the second season of For All Mankind. The opening sequence has not been changed. At least I don't recall any. I don't see any changes from what I recall from the first season. And their font is like the NASA worm, so it's N, A, and S combined, and then A again, which is NASA. And For All Mankind is also written like that. So that's a nice shout out to the space exploration program. Okay, so after the credits, it's 24 hours earlier on Earth. So basically, when the astronauts, the 13 American astronauts who are watching the lunar sunrise, were taking their nice little beauty trip, nature beauty trip, we are one day behind in Earth time. It's a sort of a peppy 1980s background score, with all the LP scratching and the poppy beats. So this is obviously, whoa, that was nice. So let me give you a bit of background. I think this is the NASA director that we are with. I will tell you her name in a while. It's been a while since I saw season 1. All right. So what I was really excited about, what I got excited about, was that she was brushing and at the end of her brush was a pencil. So not like rubber banded together or anything. It was actually made as an instrument to brush, and she was reading something and she wanted to make a note on it, and so she just took the brush out of her mouth and made a note with the other end that had the pencil in it, and started brushing again. All right, so that was a montage of her waking up in her office from a fold out sofa bed, and she calls in her Miss Madison. Right, so this is director Madison. She's directing NASA at the end of the first season, and she has called in her secretary, who's called Emma. Some personal issues some personal issues discussed between them. All right. So after the personal stuff is them going around the world. I like how that terminology is, that she is giving her a memento by memento update about all the things that are in space around the world, around in orbit, right? All right. So they're talking about administrative and bureaucratic hurdles, right? And there is some, in fact, there is lots of jargon about missile test and defense of department having a big say in how NASA is conducting their operations, or rather, so the Jamestown crew, it will be rotating home next week from this day, and space shuttles are in turnaround. Discover, Endeavour, Enterprise, Atlantis, Victoria, Constitution are the space shuttle. Pathfinder seems to be like something. Yeah, so Pathfinder seems to be a new thing because it's undergoing tests for heat tiles. So heat tiles are the things that save space shuttles, that used to save space shuttles when they used to come in for re-entry. Uh, in fact, it was on one of the space shuttles, as part of one of the space shuttle crews, that Kalpana Chawla, uh, made the ultimate sacrifice. But we shall not go down that path. We shall stick to the slightly optimistic alternate history that is being painted by this series. For all of you who are joining me right now, and for people who are watching this later, For All Mankind is depicting an alternate history in which the technological advancements due to the space race, in fact, due to the Americans getting egged on due to USSR's winning the race to put the first man and woman on the moon, have percolated into real society and are making a better society for humans. All right, so director the director has come to meet the armed forces representative, the Department of Defense official, and she's got him Army Air Force tickets at the 50-yard line for an American football game. Oh, so the director refers to her secretary as a second story gal from way back. So apparently that means that she's very well connected. So she was able to get these hard to come by tickets. They're trying to make a space vehicle called Kontiki land at one of the Edwards Air Base. So Edwards Air Base is, yeah. So basically, the Department of Defense official is saying that CIA doesn't like, you know scientific vehicles landing and using the Edwards Air Force Base. So space shuttles need a nice runway to land. I mean, they can't just come in on a field strip. Okay. All right. So the DoD official is unable to help out in that way. Oh, but I think he said that he can get the Kontiki to land at Edwards. But he's talking about the football game. And as a parting shot, he's not a parting shot, but as a parting comment, he says, "I owe you one," and the director acknowledges that. All right. So PL statement on her desk, and there is some microgravity silicon growth patents. So see, this is the kind of technological advancement that I'm talking about, that the failure of the USA to win the space race in the previous season has egged them on, has spurred them on, has motivated them to make even better technological advancements. She's getting invited to some sort of a dinner with some high ranking official who's going to try and convince her about something. We'll find out what later. All right. And the scene. Okay, so this transition was kind of like the West Wing. That was a show that was up in the 90s. Aaron Sorkin used to write and direct something like that. But very nicely done and very critically acclaimed. So the thing that I was talking about was that the camera uh, walks with the people in frame through corridors and hallways. And now we have shifted into a conversation between two astronauts who are discussing the admiral. So the admiral, I guess, is the chief of astronauts who this is going to try and convince to get his ticket punched, which means which means he's trying to get out of this situation in which he has to stay on Earth, even though he's been trained as an astronaut. Oh, so he's scared of the chief of astronaut. Yeah, chief of astronaut office is where he's knocking, and the chief is playing putt putt golf. Not putt putt golf, but he's practicing his putting. Oh, it's Joel Kinnaman. Oh, okay. So basically, what they're depicting him as is that after becoming the first person in the Jamestown base in the first season, he has now been promoted up the ranks, and he's finally the chief of astronauts. All right. So this young pilot is trying to get his first commission, his first mission on which he will get to go into space. And he's obviously uncomfortable as inexperienced people tend to be around, somebody who's considered a hero in this alternate history, because being the first crew to man a lunar base is obviously something that is huge. Mhm. So they're talking about the new Pathfinder space vehicle, which will propel people to Mars and beyond. So obviously, it's some sort of a new prototype. So he drops a line which says, "I'll let you know when you're ready." And this is what the young astronaut was afraid of. He's taken aback and he's about to, but he's hesitating. I mean, he's decided to turn around and then pursue this a little more. He's qualified as orbiter pilot, LSAM driver, lunar prospector. Wow, mining on the moon, robotic arms specialist, and astronomer. All right. Been Capcom on 5 shuttle moon flights and 2 orbital repairs. So Capcom is obviously capsule communication, and it's kind of the person who actually relays all the information to the crew in space. And what else? He's been back up on 6 crew, and his performance evaluation is in the 95th percentile. So apparently he's way overdue for a space mission. And this guy just straight up, the chief of astronauts just straight up says, "I don't like redheads." And this guy is a redhead. I think his name was Biscotti or Biscotti or something. Biscotti is probably biscuit, so he's probably Biscotti, which is not much of an improvement if you ask me. All right. So let's see. Whoa! The chief of astronauts makes a putt, and that guy puts his foot on the ball, and so now he brings his entire tall frame and gravelly voice into force and leans towards the astronaut and says, "I will let you know when you're ready. So get your foot off my ball." Kind of, it was inevitable, but yeah. So I think this is going to be the end of this office scene. So see, in my teaser video also, I had expected that they are going to pace the story faster. This, of course, is going to turn out to be a pivotal scene because this Scotty guy is going to get uh, crewed into one of the missions and going to have a role to play. Otherwise, they wouldn't have made such a big deal about it. All right. We shift to a scene in which there's a banquet hall and there's a speech being given by Gordo Stevens, who was the he was part of the first crew on Jamestown base, which was the first lunar base set up by the USA in this alternate history. He's giving a speech at Little Rock, Arkansas, and he's just finished his speech and he's asked the audiences for questions. The first question is by an old boomer who says, "How do you go to the bathroom in space?" And he explains, of course, that because there are bodily fluids and uh, lack of gravity, they have to take the help of technology to go to the bathroom. And a lady is asking him about how he saved the astronaut, the third person on that first crew of Jamestown base, when she broke her arm. But having watched season one, this is a slight spoiler. But for those of you who are joining in and who are considering watching season two for the first time without having to go through all the episodes of season one, I will tell you this, that it is the lady astronaut who breaks her arm to give Gordo a valid reason to take her home to uh, get away from the moon base, because he was the one whose mind was breaking down. And he says sometimes the best of plans falls apart on you and the best equipment fails. And that is the real challenge of space exploration, that it's not a drive across town, it's not a train journey across a country, it's not taking a flight halfway around the world. It's actually leaving the earth. And when you're so far away and when you're so helpless when things go wrong, that is where the real challenge of space exploration lies. It obviously speaks volumes about the real courage of real astronauts and all the crew and the technologists who back them and who make it possible for them to go and return safely to Earth. So, a huge cheers to everybody who is doing anything at all to make humanity a spacefaring species. And I would love to be part of that community. In my own small way, I am, but we can always do something more. Moving on, the chief of astronauts is accompanied by an administrator guy, the administrator of the Johnson Space Center, and he is talking about the dinner. Oh, so he's talking about the dinner to which the director has been invited, and they're talking about putting weapons on the Pathfinder space vehicle. So I think that is going to be the point of contention. The chief of astronauts says that if there are weapons on Pathfinder, it goes into Department of Defense and CIA jurisdiction and so on and so forth. So it's basically a bureaucratic battle, and obviously they don't want to weaponize space too much. Oh, So the administrator has got an electric car, 60 miles on a single charge. 60 miles is about 100 kilometers for those of you who are on the metric system. And the chief of astronauts, being the astronaut that he is, used to flying at thousands of miles an hour, uh, revs up his engine and says that the electric car is just a toy. A bit of a snafu there with the charging wire. The administrator having a little bit of trouble putting it back, looping it back into the charging station. Just a little nice, light-hearted nod at how Tesla cars are now becoming more mainstream now that giga charging stations and so on and so forth are coming in. Which also reminds me that Rivian is a company which is awesome max at producing electric vehicles. They were the ones who made the bikes and the SUVs that went on long way up, which was Evan McGregor and Charlie Borman, accompanied by crew, of course, on a huge South America to Los Angeles bike ride on electric bikes. So that makes for some awesome viewing. Go ahead and watch that on Apple TV Plus. And I will also be making a little obeisance to Long Way Up, Long Way Down, and Long Way Round, because there are 3 series in which these two guys have been accompanied by the same crew and made excellent journeys all over the world. So, coming back to this episode, the chief of astronauts is back to his home, Cum Cub. So he lives at the back of his pub, which is called Outpost. In a shout out to the outposts that explorers set up, and obviously lunar outposts are a very common thing in science fiction, both hard science fiction and soft science fiction. All right, so this is going to be a dinner scene about a little more space exploration in the past years, especially. So, India's space program was going to achieve a very significant uh, milestone with Chandrayaan 2, but unfortunately, like I was talking about, the best equipment failing and the huge risks in space exploration. So unmanned missions are very important because they give so much data about the actual conditions that humans will face when they reach those places, like the Mars Perseverance rover that has just landed on Mars. And it's very important for us to continue to try and strive to set up humanity's future in and around the moon and eventually on Mars, because the Earth is groaning under our weight. We are absolutely smashing the nature to bits and not giving it enough time to recover. Just to catch you up on the point of this live stream, the family of father, mother, daughter are having spaghetti, and they're discussing the college options for the daughter, and she is uh, getting pestered by her mother to attend her alma mater. Like I will obviously pester my kid to go to my alma mater, the Lawrence School, Sanawar. And the father is obviously saying that you should go into science, technology, computers, because those are the jobs of the future in this alternate history. But even ours. Okay, a little Johnny Carson. All right, so we are watching, they are watching Johnny Carson on a TV set in the pub. The wife is saying that the new TVs in the market have remotes and that they are in color. But this guy is obviously sticking to the past. Yeah, so Johnny Carson was a late night TV host like David Letterman or uh, the recently deceased Larry King and current, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon and so on and so forth. So the guest that he has on in this show is Tracy Stevens, and she is the astronaut who actually rescued Molly Cobb, the astronaut who was climbing a rock face in the opening introduction sequences with the lunar sunrise. So she is coming back from a vacation from some exotic places, and the astronaut is mentioning Ronald Reagan and his wife, that they'll be watching Johnny Carson. The astronaut Tracy Stevens has just announced on TV, live TV, that she has gotten married. But she was actually married to Gordo Stevens, the person who was giving the lecture in that banquet hall, the person who uh, got into. Oh, here he is. So, yeah, so they are watching the same show on a color TV. The people who are watching are Gordo Stevens, the astronaut who had to be given an excuse to leave the Jamestown base, which was the first base of the USA on the moon, and their son. So I guess this has come as news to him, and the son is upset with his father's reaction, and he says, "I'm going to go play Atari." So Atari was also something we mentioned. I mean, I mentioned in the live stream of WandaVision, because the kids' video games had morphed into a joystick controlled video game. Okay, so the son goes to answer the phone, and I was pretty sure it was going to be for the dad, right? Oh, so the chief of astronauts, his name is Ed, by the way. The chief of astronauts has called Gordo Stevens, who must have obviously retired from the astronaut life because he had a mental breakdown. He was close to a mental breakdown on the moon, so that is something that they can't risk again. But they are discussing his ex-wife's marriage to some celebrity. So the chief of astronauts extends a liquor branch to Gordo Stevens, but he politely declines. And so she's explaining her proposal. So she gives them usual celebrity explanations, and there we go. Gordo changes the channel. Some sort of a newscast about the Panama Canal. It seems that the people of Panama are demanding that the United States give back control of the canal to Panama. So, wow, that's a new issue for them to be facing. Okay, we are sticking with the astronauts on Earth, or the non-astronauts on Earth in this case, because this is the chief of astronauts' wife. She's looking up at the moon, uh, and let's see if we see a shift of action back to the moon. Oh, I forgot to play some background score for you guys. Oh, yeah. So my interest in space exploration is apparent here as well on my iPads. Lock screen and home screen. Skylab. Okay, so now we are shifting the action to Skylab. All right. So now this is going to be a sequence between Mission Control in Houston and Skylab. Skylab was an actual space shuttle which carried out awesome science experiments in microgravity. It's called microgravity because it's still in a low Earth orbit and it's not in a. All right, so it's an Italian astronaut. I'll. All right, they're observing the sun, and there's a nice shot of solar flares that the sun gives out, and those actually affect telecommunications and satellite communications on Earth as well. But we live in a very protected time, Yeah, so that's the solar flare that I'm talking about. It's coming up. Looks like a major solar flare, but it's bigger than anything I've ever seen. Wow! So it's 100,000 kilometers long solar flare. Okay, JPL just lost contact with the Marine 14 probe. So it seems like the Mariner 14. Mariner 14 seems to be a solar probe because it was inside the orbit of Mercury, as the mission control person said. So maybe this breakdown in communication breakdown. Shout out to Led Zeppelin. All right, so now we are back to where the 13 American astronauts were singing Three Little Birds together. Okay, so it seems the timelines have matched up. Okay, so let's see. The solar flare is going to affect communications, and this solar flare is going to be a huge danger factor for, yeah, like she said, like the director said, uh, this is an alert level incident. All right, so they are getting all their space shuttles to. There's some proton radiation that is because of the solar flare. They are telling the Jamestown base to take all precautions, shut down their nuclear power plant, and go to reserve power so that they aren't affected so much by the photon radiation. So she's okay. So she being Ellen, the commander of the Jamestown base, the Jamestown colony actually, because it's expanded, and the astronauts are told to head back in and find cover wherever they can, and find cover. They've gone to emergency power protocols, and they are going to the. One team is going to go to the nuclear power reactor and scram it, which obviously means pause it, sort of put it in safe mode, so to speak. All right. All right. Okay, so what she tells them is that you need at least 3 meters of regolith. Regolith is the rock material of extraterrestrial bodies, even Earth, but in this case, the moon. And the astronaut Molly, the astronaut Molly and the rover driver Wubbo are headed to a lava tube. So lava tubes are channels that were formed those billions of years ago. I mean, yeah, the Earth is 4.5 billion years old, so the moon is approximately somewhere there in the vicinity. So lava used to flow on almost on the surface when the moon was forming, and so it has left huge tunnels, right? And that is where they want to take shelter. Through archival photos, they've shown how they are communicating with the president about this unprecedented solar flare, which might cause a lot of damage to anything that is outside the Earth's magnetic fields, because the Earth's magnetic fields are what saves us from harmful solar radiation. So the Department of Defense official calls in the director and tells her that the early warning satellites that they have stationed over the USSR is uh, under threat. So what they want is to ensure that their satellites is going to. So this is what I'm talking about. There is distrust between the USA and the USSR. So she is trying to convince him that both sides are getting equally hurt by this solar flare. So there is bureaucratic back and forth going on, and he says that they should go to DEFCON 3. The director is obviously upset that the Americans might strike first. So this is one of the very important points about technology. The more powerful two warring sides become, the higher the chances of one of them striking first. But thankfully, I'm no expert, but I think that by now so many nuclear arsenals exist in the world that we are kind of safeguarded from any one country preemptively launching a nuclear strike against another. But then again, the future is always uncertain. Let's see what happens. Okay, so the crew is getting into their shelter. The shelter is locked down. Most of the crew is inside, except for astronaut Molly, the cliff climber, who is just making it down her rock face, rappelling down. I used to love rappelling, because it's just letting your weight do the work. Okay, she's heading back to her rover, I would assume. No, she's heading into the lava tube. She's trying to get the person the Wubbo character who was driving the rover. Okay, the solar flare is now enveloping the Earth. Signal loss, and most of the things in orbit as well as the Jamestown base are going to be out of contact with mission control for half an hour or something like that. Astronaut Molly Cobb is looking for Wobo. Oh, and it seems that the rover has turned over. Okay, so basically this is going to be her putting herself in danger's way to rescue a fellow astronaut, and everybody pacing around nervously in mission control, because there is nothing you can do when communication is out. And this is what used to happen when the Apollo, in real life, this is what used to happen when the Apollo modules used to go over the dark side of the moon. Pink Floyd. And when they were behind the moon, there was no way to establish radio contact with them. So that used to be a period of blackout, and they could talk to Houston, and Houston could talk to them. So those kind of uh, transitions are always nerve-wracking, and not nerve-wracking like Preeti Zinta was saying in yesterday's IPL announcement of her new Punjab Kings 11 team. But I digress. Sorry. Uh, those times are pretty nerve-wracking because if anything goes wrong during those times, the astronauts can't communicate with Earth, and if Earth mission control has some important data or some important action that they need the astronauts to carry out, they can't get the directions to them in time. All right, the president has climbed onto Air Force One just in case the Soviets try to launch a nuclear strike. So they are on DEFCON 3, and the storm is about to hit the moon. So let's see. On the large screen, the red wave. Oh, Molly has. Molly is not going to stop. Molly is going to go get Wubbo. Wow. So they're showing the lunar soil actually vibrating and imitating waves. I mean, this is what nature can do. We are so lucky to have this perfect little blue marble to save us from these kind of disastrous natural phenomena. And I mean, fiction is a different thing, but trust me, you will not want to be in a solar storm in space when, I mean, it's just unimaginable how much danger is out there beyond the protection afforded to us by Earth. So Molly is not taking any chances. I mean, she is going to take a chance by venturing out into the radiated, fully radiated lunar soil just to rescue her fellow astronaut. And there she goes. Yup. She's sprinting, but sprinting is nothing when something traveling at 70% of the speed of light with photonic energy is bombarding you. I mean, this is not reality, obviously, but these kind of sequences are what shows the dangers of space travel, and the risk that humanity will have to put itself through to actually breach these kind of boundaries. And I, for one, used to entertain thoughts of being an astronaut when I was a little kid, but unfortunately, life did not turn out that way. Still, in the future, if there's anything I can do, I will do. And now she has reached Wabo, and he's dead. No, he's not dead, but he's very badly hurt. He's very, very badly hurt. He's bleeding from the head inside his helmet, and now she'll have to carry him back while the radiation storm is going on. She's trying to get the rover flipped over, if they could use that to travel, but it seems unlikely, so she's trying to figure out something else. Okay, so she has strapped him on her back and is now dragging him towards the lava tube. I mean, this is it's like the astronauts are following the Rangers creed: no man left behind. You always, look out for your fellow Rangers. It's like the Indian Army buddy system or any other army's buddy system, but I know from first-hand experience, my father was in the Indian Army, that it's this kind of credo, this kind of absolute willpower that gets you through toughest situations. This is fictional, of course, and I am desensitized to pop culture, because I know that it's not real people, real astronauts who are going through this kind of a thing. But it does not take anything away from the parallels that I'm drawing, that I'm trying to tell you. Humans, when faced with difficult choices, should ideally attempt to help fellow humans out. But politics and greed have, poisoned our minds to such extent that we don't want to. Most of us don't want to get entangled in other people's problems. So if there are personal problems and the person is helpless, I mean, be kind to them. That's the least you can do. At least don't aggravate their situation. I just hope that the characters of these astronauts will be safe and will not suffer long-term damage. Yeah. So let's see if Mr. Wabo is able to heal, but obviously that will be shown in the later part of the episode. Right now, the astronaut Molly has checked him out. I'm not sure whether he is alive or dead, but with the rising crescendo in my headphones, it's the end of the episode. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share a couple of thoughts and then end this live stream of the first episode of the second season of For All Mankind on Apple TV Plus. It's ambitious. The production values are excellent. 1980s America in a more scientifically advanced age. So it's kind of an accelerated alternate history. So I'll leave it at that, and hope to see you all next time. If you like what you see, please subscribe, and until next time, goodbye.